The creation background of Wuthering Heights, Emily Brontë and the literary world of the Victorian era. In 1847, a novel called Wuthering Heights quietly emerged, authored under the unfamiliar pseudonym Ellis Bell. With its wild passion, dark atmosphere, and deep exploration of human nature, it shocked Victorian readers. Today, we'll delve into the origins of this novel, exploring how Emily Brontë crafted this literary blaze in the Yorkshire moors and how it evolved from a controversial work to a world classic. Let's begin with the turbulent Victorian era to trace the roots and enduring legacy of Wuthering Heights. 1. The Victorian era, the soil that nurtured Wuthering Heights. In 1847, Britain was in the Victorian era 1837 to 1901, a time of glory and contradiction. Under Queen Victoria's rule, Britain dominated as a global industrial and colonial power, with steam engines roaring and railways sprawling. The Industrial Revolution brought unprecedented wealth but tore apart social structures. Urban working-class people struggled in crowded slums with meager wages, while the rising bourgeoisie and traditional landowners reaped the benefits of economic prosperity. This class divide is evident in Wuthering Heights. The rugged Wuthering Heights contrasts with the refined Thrushcross Grange, symbolizing the clash between rural tradition and urban modernity. Heathcliff, an adopted orphan, tries to cross class barriers but is crushed by societal prejudice. His rage and revenge reflect the Victorian era's rigid restrictions on class mobility. The Victorian era was also known for its strict moral codes, especially for women. Society expected women to be angels in the house, gentle and virtuous, with marriage often a transaction of wealth and status rather than love. Women lacked independent economic and legal rights, and their emotional expression was suppressed. This gender norm makes Catherine's rebellion in Wuthering Heights strikingly bold. Her wild love for Heathcliff and rational choice of marrying Linton expose the rift between personal desire and societal expectation. When the novel was published, many readers were shocked by its immoral depiction of emotions, criticizing it as coarse, yet its subversive power captivated them. The literary trends of the Victorian era sparked the creation of Wuthering Heights. Romanticism swept Britain, with poets and writers celebrating nature, emotion, and individualism, rejecting the mechanization and rationalism of industrial society. The Yorkshire moors, with their howling winds, became the natural stage for Emily's pen, infusing Wuthering Heights' dark atmosphere and Catherine's passion with romantic ideals. Gothic literature, a branch of Romanticism, captivated readers with its mysterious, eerie, and supernatural elements. The novel's ghostly imagery, dark themes of revenge, and psychological tension inherit the Gothic tradition. The Victorian era's religious climate also shaped the novel. Christian morality emphasized restraint and redemption, but Emily explored impulses and destructive forces, challenging the era's religious and moral frameworks. Social change, gender oppression, Romanticism, and Gothic trends wove together to form the fertile ground for Wuthering Heights. These elements not only shaped the novel's themes and atmosphere but also ignited Emily Brontë's creative passion. Her reclusive and rebellious nature planted a unique literary seed in this soil. 2. Emily Brontë, a solitary soul in the moors. To understand the creation of Wuthering Heights, we must step into Emily Brontë's inner world. Born on July 30, 1818, in Thornton, Yorkshire, she was the fifth child of the Brontë family. Her father, Patrick Brontë, was a rural clergyman, and her mother, Maria, died when Emily was 3, leaving 6 children to be raised by their father and aunt. The Brontës moved to Haworth, a remote Yorkshire village surrounded by vast moors. Desolate landscape, with its howling winds, left a deep imprint on Emily's soul, becoming the prototype for Wuthering Heights. Moors were not just her childhood backdrop but a sanctuary for her emotions and imagination. Emily's childhood was marked by solitude and literary nourishment. She grew up with her sisters Charlotte and Anne and brother Branwell in Haworth's parsonage, where the four displayed remarkable creativity. They invented fictional worlds, Angria and Gondal, crafting intricate stories and poems filled with power struggles, betrayal, and passion. These childhood games laid the foundation for the narrative structure and emotional depth of Wuthering Heights. Emily was particularly fond of Gondal, and her poems about its moors, fate, and death later infused the tragic destiny of Heathcliff and Catherine. Emily's education was brief and challenging. She attended clergy daughter school but was brought home due to harsh conditions and the deaths of two sisters. She was largely self-taught, reading Shakespeare, Byron, and the Bible, which shaped her literary vision. In 1838, she tried teaching in Halifax but found the rigid environment stifling and soon returned to Haworth. In 1842, she studied languages in Brussels with Charlotte but felt oppressed by city life and returned home the next year. Emily's reclusive nature led her to prefer solitude, finding companionship in the moors and immersing herself in writing and imagination. Her isolation and yearning for freedom found full expression in Wuthering Heights. Heathcliff's outsider status may stem from her observations of society's underclass, while Catherine's rebellion reflects her resistance to Victorian gender oppression. Publishing under the pseudonym Ellis Bell, Emily sidestepped gender bias and signaled her detachment from societal norms. She blended the wildness of the moors with human passion, creating a work that challenged the moral standards of her time. In 1848, Emily died of tuberculosis at age 30, leaving Wuthering Heights as her only novel. Her brief life was like a meteor streaking across the moors, short but brilliant, and this novel was her loudest cry to the world. 3. The motivation behind Wuthering Heights, the call of the moors and inner rebellion. Why did Emily write Wuthering Heights? The answer lies in the collision of her life and the Victorian era. The Yorkshire moors were not just her childhood home but an outlet for her emotions. The freedom and solitude she found there became the howling winds of Wuthering Heights and Catherine's fiery passion. Her poems, often set in the moors, explored fate, death, and humanity, themes deepened in the novel through Heathcliff and Catherine's tragic love. Emily's primary motivation was to express her inner solitude and yearning for freedom, with Wuthering Heights becoming her refuge from reality. The Victorian era's gender and moral norms were another driving force. As a woman, Emily felt the weight of society's expectations, with marriage and domesticity stifling her spirit. Catherine's struggle, torn between Heathcliff's passion and Linton's stability, mirrors Emily's critique of women's dilemmas. Through the novel, she challenged Victorian morality, exploring humanity's unrestrained impulses. Her rebellious spirit made Wuthering Heights a protest against gender and class oppression, and her pseudonym allowed her to break free from gender bias. Literary trends and family influence further fueled her creativity. Romanticism and Gothic literature inspired her, with Byron's passionate poetry, Shakespeare's tragic structures, and Gothic novels' mystery and terror woven into her narrative. The Brontë sisters' literary ambitions also played a key role. In 1846, Charlotte, Emily, and Anne published a poetry collection, and though it sold poorly, it sparked their drive to write novels. Charlotte's Jane Eyre and Wuthering Heights were completed around the same time, with sisterly competition and support pushing Emily's work. She aimed to prove her talent and secure a place for the Brontes in the literary world. Emily's motivations were multifaceted, expressing her solitude and desire for freedom, challenging Victorian norms, and drawing inspiration from Romanticism and her family's literary circle. The novel is her profound reflection on humanity, society, and fate, a radiant declaration of her brief life. 4. From controversy to immortality, the rise of Wuthering Heights. When Wuthering Heights was published in 1847 under the pseudonym Ellis Bell, it didn't instantly become a classic but sparked fierce controversy. Victorian critics called it coarse and morbid, shocked by its dark themes and unconventional morality. Catherine and Heathcliff's wild love was seen as a challenge to family and religious values. Some critics even questioned the author's gender, doubting a woman could write such a bold work. Yet this controversy drew attention, with readers captivated by its emotional depth and unique style, sparking widespread discussion. After Emily's death, the novel's fate began to shift. In 1850, Charlotte wrote a preface for a new edition, revealing Emily's identity and defending the novel's wild power as rooted in the Yorkshire moors. Charlotte's success with Jane Eyre brought more eyes to Wuthering Heights. By the late 19th century, as Romanticism and Gothic literature remained popular, critics began to re-evaluate the novel's unique style. They recognized it not just as a love story but as a profound exploration of humanity, class, and fate. In the 20th century, Wuthering Heights' reputation soared. The rise of feminist and psychoanalytic criticism led scholars to reinterpret the novel through gender, psychological, and social lenses. Catherine's rebellion was seen as a defiance of patriarchy, and Heathcliff's revenge as the struggle of a marginalized figure. By the early 1900s, the novel was enshrined as a British literary classic, taught in schools and studied widely. Its global influence grew as it was translated into multiple languages, reaching Europe, the Americas, and beyond from the 1920s. Film and theater adaptations boosted its fame. The 1939 Hollywood film, starring Laurence Olivier, brought Heathcliff and Catherine's love story to the masses, though it softened the novel's darker themes. Subsequent adaptations, including British films in 1970, a 1992 version, and others in Japan and France, reached broader audiences. Music and pop culture also drew inspiration, like Kate Bush's 1978 song Wuthering Heights, which gave the novel new life with its haunting lyrics and melody. In the 21st century, Wuthering Heights' status is unshakable. Readers worldwide are drawn to its timeless themes, the destructive power of love, conflicts of class and gender, and the complexity of human nature. Academic studies explore its psychological depth, ecological imagery, and post-colonial perspectives, making it a perennial subject of literary criticism. In the social media age, readers keep the novel alive through discussions and fan adaptations. From a controversial work to a soul-stirring classic, Wuthering Heights' enduring power lies in its fearless exploration of humanity and its reflection of its era. Conclusion: the eternal echoes of the moors. Wuthering Heights was born amid the turbulence of the Victorian era, with Emily Brontë transforming the Yorkshire moors' howls into an eternal literary echo. With her solitude, rebellion, and literary genius, she challenged societal norms and expressed her longing for freedom and humanity. From its controversial debut to its 20th century canonization and global cultural phenomenon, Wuthering Heights proves its timeless allure. It's more than a novel, it's a mirror reflecting humanity's struggles with love, hate, freedom, and constraint. Emily's voice from the moors still resonates today, inspiring us to ponder, feel, and question the profound mysteries of the human soul.